Welcome back to the Alcohol Free Revolution podcast. My name is Steve Smith,
And my name's James Lloyd.
and we are both alcohol free coaches. And we are coming in your ears every Monday with our
Coming in your ears.
with the Alcohol Free Revolution. How's your week been?
Oh, great, actually. Yeah, pretty good. I mean, I'll be honest, I'm still buzzing off the Catherine Gray episode last
Yeah,
week.
me
I
too.
mean,
Me too.
had such great feedback. I mean, it was just an absolute joy to record that.
Yeah, loved it. Absolutely loved it. And yeah, I was having a little bit of a reflection. How long have we been now? 9 months we've been doing this since we kind of fired out the first episode from our swanky studios in Surrey.
Yeah, I think it was June time,
Yeah,
June. It was
yeah.
definitely mid-spring.
And who would have thought back in that first point that we would have had the likes of Catherine Gray and Sober Dave and Andy Ramage and countless other
Laura
great
Willoughby.
guests. Laura Willoughby,
Yeah, yeah.
great guests on the pod, and it's been brilliant. And really, really excited to see where this kind of goes in the future because it's been such a joy, such a joy. So
Yeah, me
yes,
too. I mean, the other thing as well, we've obviously not missed a single week, which I'm really proud that we've done that. You know, if we
yeah,
can get through the full year without missing weeks. They do say that podcasting is all about consistency, showing up every week. And
hmm
that's a lot of thing we talk about with booze as well, isn't it, really? It's kind of showing up every week, going to the gym when you say you're going to go to the gym, eating good food when you say you're going to eat good food, and keeping it,
exactly,
building that
exactly.
consistency. So yeah, no, it's been brilliant. I'm so pleased with how it's all going. Obviously, we've got the community as well now, which we launched at the end of last year.
Absolutely, which is fantastic. And as always, just to remind everybody, if you want to join the alcohol-free community, just to drop us a link. Sorry, drop us a word interested. Don't drop us a link. Drop us the word interested to info@thealcoholfreerevolution.co.uk and we'll send you over the joining instructions and a link to join us every Monday, 12 o'clock, to talk all things alcohol-free and bang the drum.
Indeed, and it's completely free as well. Just to sort of
Yeah,
say as well, I'm
yeah.
not trying to sell you anything. It's getting together, group of people on a alcohol-free adventure.
What's not to love? Just to get together, have a chat,
Exactly.
and
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
it's great fun.
Meet some
Yeah,
like-minded people and just chat about how great it is being alcohol-free, or what the struggles are, or what the wins are, all that kind of stuff. And
fantastic,
yeah,
fantastic.
yeah.
So what we got coming up in the coming weeks?
Well, so we are planning in the next kind of couple of weeks or so to do an episode, a special double episode. I won't say double header, but a double episode with both our wives. It's going to be the wife swap episode where I'm going to interview Steve's wife Jo, and Steve's going to interview my wife Kristen. And it's going to be all about what we get asked all the time: is does your wife still drink? What does she think about the fact that you've decided to go alcohol free, and all of that kind of stuff. So, yeah, I've already done the episode with Joe. That's in the can, and it
Yeah,
was
I'm not really
awesome.
allowed to hear that.
She was absolutely wonderful. And yeah, we both spent a good half an hour just character assassinating you. So that was a lot of fun.
Good, good.
I've discovered loads of stuff about you that I didn't know.
Yeah.
So that's really insightful. The thing that really blew my mind though is obviously I know your story really well because we've spoken a lot about it over the last since we've known each other. But hearing it from your wife's perspective, the same story but told from a different angle was fascinating to me. And I'm really interested to hear what Chris has got to say about me, because I really came away from the interview with Joe thinking, oh yeah, that was me too, but I didn't see it in the way that my wife saw it.
You
So
are you're getting me on the edge of my seat. I want to know what was said, but I know we're going to keep this under wraps. So
yeah, so that's
yeah,
going to come out in a couple of weeks or so. So it'll be a double episode where we'll have. I think we'll probably put the two together in one episode, but it'll be an extra long episode, I think.
yeah,
And
yeah. Looking forward to that. So I
it's
have the
going to be
pleasure
interesting.
of speaking to Chris this week. So that will be
You do,
good.
you
That
do.
will be good.
I won't be in the room. I'll
No.
stay out of the way. So yeah, making me a little bit nervous. I've said to Chris, look, please say absolutely anything. I've got nothing to hide. So hopefully,
Yeah, we might have to put an explicit filter on that week.
well, yeah, quite potentially. Yeah.
Cool, cool, cool. So what about this week? What do you want to talk about this week? We have no guests this week.
We don't. It's just you and
No,
me.
it's just me and you.
Well,
Just
I
me and
thought
you.
off the back of the episode with Catherine last week, which was great. We obviously spoke about her new book, and some of her back catalogue as well. So Little Addictions is a new book, and we spoke about in that episode how her first book, The Unexpected Joy Being Sober, had influenced us, and it made me sort of think, why don't we talk a bit more about some of the other books, not just books that are specifically about alcohol, so quitlit as it's commonly known for anyone who's not familiar with the term, but also other books that kind of come a bit more downstream of going alcohol free. So I'm thinking more books along the lines of there's books about habits, there's books about mindset, books, nutritional books, books about exercise, all of these things that kind of come downstream from pushing over the big domino, which is alcohol. So I thought we'd get it all out there and have a bit of a chit chat about, some of the stuff that we've consumed, over the last sort of few years, really, over the last 5 years or so since we've been alcohol free. What do you think?
Yeah. All the stuff we've consumed since we stopped consuming the stuff that we want to talk about not consuming.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah, absolutely. I think that's a great idea. And I know it's very much for you and also for me. I think it's so important when you decide to take that break and we talked about it last week about surrounding yourself with people who are like-minded, whether that's through reading Quitlit. So Quitlit, as James was alluding to there, quitting literature, shortened to Quitlit. So books that kind of help you realize that there's many people in the same boat as you.
Mm.
Um,
It's positive
and
reinforcement, isn't it?
yeah, but also, yeah, and also, reinforcing that belief and surrounding yourself with people also through podcasts. I know this, we're a podcast, but there's tons of alcohol-free podcasts out there.
Wait, what?
Um, Sorry,
Wait,
not as
what?
good as this, not as good as this, but they're all out there. Um, yeah, so just surrounding yourself, and often it's referred to the opposite of kind of addiction is connection, and so having that ability to relate to it really helped. So where did it start for you in terms of books?
Well, I told this story last week, but I'll tell it quickly, briefly again. The very first book that I read, which was, where am I now? I'm 50 now. I was 30. So this is something like 10, 12 years ago. The first one I read was How to Control Alcohol by Alan Carr. And I'll be quick about it. I was going on holiday and I was looking for a book to read, an audiobook. And so I was going through iTunes as it was then, and I saw this, and I'd had some thoughts in my head about like, this sense that alcohol wasn't quite right. And because it was called How to Control Alcohol, I thought, oh yeah, I'll give that a go. I want to get alcohol back under control. Don't want to quit, just want to get it back under control. Read the book, completely blew my head off. I just had it, basically by the end of the spoiler alert, by the end of the book, he says it's not about controlling alcohol, it's about quitting alcohol. And I had this moment of almost instantaneous sobriety where I stopped drinking for 4 months. And then I started drinking again because I started a new job. It was in a sales role, and I kind of felt that people had this limiting belief that I wouldn't be able to connect with people, and they would think I was boring and all this kind of stuff. So I thought, I'll just drink at work events, and then gradually over the months, it all basically came crashing down, and I ended up back where I started. So I was kicking myself for the next 4 or 5 years. I just couldn't get back to where I'd got to with after I read Alan Carr. It completely changed my outlook on alcohol until I picked up Catherine's book, The Unexpected Joy of Being Sober, when I was 45, I think. So a good 5 years later. And that led me on to This Naked Mind by Annie Grace and Alcohol Explained by William Porter. And those three books together, I read them all within about the space of a month, got me back to where I'd gotten to with Alan Carr. So it completely unpicked all of my limiting beliefs and all of the bullshit that we get told and we see all around us about how great alcohol is and how essential it is and how it's the elixir of life and how you couldn't possibly not be drinking it. These three books unpicked all of that nonsense in my head and helped me see alcohol clearly for what it is. And after that, I never drank again. I never looked back. So those were the three that were pivotal to me. This Naked Mind by Annie Grace, which is kind of like an NLP book. So NLP is neuro
Mm,
linguistic programming, which is very much what Alan Carr's book was about. So it's kind of telling you the same thing from different angles over and over again to make you
mm,
kind of change. It's basically positively brainwashing you is effectively what the book does, but it
mm,
makes you see alcohol for what it is. And William Porter's book is not NLP, but it's kind of the science behind alcohol. Alcohol Explained. It tells you in
mm,
real facts. Okay, this is what's happening scientifically, and when you see that, you're a bit like bloody hell. And then Catherine's book, of course, kind of like a mix of the two, but with a heavy element of memoir. So it's her story, which is,
mm,
I know you worked in London, as did I, in that same sort of time that she was there, and it's highly relatable. So those were the three that were huge, huge for me, and I recommend them
mm,
to everybody I coach with. They get a
mm.
copy of these books as soon as we start working together.
These are books that come up time and time and time again when we speak to people. I've just noticed your mug.
Kylie.
Kylie mug.
Love
Well,
Kylie.
we're on YouTube now, so people can appreciate
Are we
themselves.
we're recording this one. I didn't do my
Yeah.
hair. You didn't tell me.
Well, I did mine, so it's all good. But yeah, yeah. So yeah, these are books that come up time and time and time again. For me, I I'd just come across podcasts initially, podcasts in general. And this was around the time when I was deciding I wanted to take a break. And I just tapped in one day. I just think I tapped in alcohol-free podcasts, thinking there can't be any. And initially, OTI came up, and I started listening to Over the Influence. And I think they were probably about, oh, I would have said probably 20 or so episodes in. And I listened to the back, and then to be fair, I listened to them religiously. Shame to see them stop last year, but I listened to them and was lucky enough to go on the pod just before they finished. So that was a huge thing for me. But then I started, I was driving a lot for work. I was working all over the country, so I'd spend a lot of time in the car. So I thought, well, if there's podcasts, there must be books about this, right? So the first one that came out for me wasn't actually the one that impacted me the most initially, and it wasn't This Naked Mind, but it was the Alcohol Experiment by Annie Grace, which is
I've
a
never read that.
30-day experiment. And I liked it, and it did prick up my ears. I didn't find it hugely relatable initially, certainly not as relatable as This Naked Mind, but it it got my interest because it was approaching a 30-day break and a bit more like a diary, noting it down, seeing the differences, so that got me thinking, and I listened to that one, and then I carried on searching. The one that really changed it for me was Alcohol Lied to Me by Craig Beck, because all of a sudden, especially on audiobook, there's this guy with a massive booming voice coming on and talking. He sounded like some
Is that not
CEO. Sorry,
is
go
that
on.
not Craig Beck? Then I thought that was
That
Craig
was
Beck.
Craig Beck.
Oh,
That's
it
who I
was
mean.
Craig
Yes,
Beck.
it was Craig
Okay.
Beck. But he sounded like someone that was far more relatable. He sounded like someone that could potentially have been my boss or someone that worked in the similar sort of field. And I was like, crikey, this guy sounds like some hugely successful guy. And there was a line that came up within the first couple of paragraphs. And he said, so I'm going to dispel a myth for you here. He said, if you're reading this book to justify to yourself that you don't have a problem, I'm going to answer that question for you. And he said, everybody asks me, do I have a problem with alcohol? Yes. And he just said that straight away. He said, because ultimately, if you're drinking alcohol, it's a problem. It's just how much of a problem it is for you. So he basically dispelled the entire myth that actually everybody goes searching to see whether they've got a problem, where actually alcohol can cause the problem. Ultimately, if it's in your life, it's affecting your life in some shape or form. So that really got me listening. But the story was so relatable, so relatable. The kind of going out after work, the socializing, the ordering the expensive bottles of wine at the table, all of that. There was some really, again a memoir, and I found it so relatable. And that was the one that really, really started for me. So then I carried on, and that's when I came across The Unexpected Joy of Being Sober, and that was huge, huge for me, because literally the first two chapters talked about life in London, Brixton, out until the early mornings. That was me. That was me after work every single night in my 20s. And it just painted such a picture that I could relate to. And I think because it came from a female perspective as well, I just went, yeah, this is how it was. This is just what we
Mm.
did.
Yeah.
And that book, I just thought was incredible. And I genuinely did. And the end of the book, I remember walking the dog. I'd been probably 18 months alcohol free by this stage. And I remember walking the dog on a really frosty early morning and listening to the final paragraph. And it literally moved me to tears when I was walking the dog. It was such an emotional book for me. And
Mm.
I reflect on it so much. So yeah, they were the initial three books that kind of got me got me onto my alcohol-free adventure.
Mm.
Rambled on a bit there,
Yeah,
but there you go.
you're almost sport for choice because I think just from people I've spoken to over the years, everyone has got one or two books that kind of it depends. Sometimes it depends on which ones you arrive at first. Because I did read Alcohol Lied to Me, but it was probably about uh, sixth or seventh. I think once I'd read those first three, I then wanted to double down on okay, I'm feeling like I've done this, but I wanted to absolutely lock it in. So I read virtually every book I could find, and I
Mm.
got to Craig Beck, yeah, somewhere along the line. But I'd already made that decision by the time I read Craig Beck's book. But yeah, you're right; it's super powerful. Um, The other one that gets mentioned a lot, which again I read somewhere down the line and is very good, is but it's very influential for a lot of people, is The Sober Diaries by Claire Pooley.
Mm,
She's quite friendly with Catherine Gray, actually. I think that book came out exactly the same day
similar
as The
sort of time.
Unexpected Joy
Yeah.
of Being Sober. Um, and yeah, I know that was incredibly powerful for a lot of people, and I really enjoyed that. But by the time I'd read it, I was already kind of over the line, kind of mentally, I think, with alcohol. And the other one, which is again tends to appeal more to women, and the clues in the title is called "Quit Like a Woman" by Holly Whitaker, and I read that too. And it's bloody brilliant. Honestly, it's really really good, and it's a lot. It's a lot of that book is about kind of the history of how women are kind of advertised to, and obviously we've spoken about it in the past as well. You know, the '90s and the way the women were targeted with alcohol advertising, but it also talks a lot. Goes back a lot more into history about how women are kind of, put into boxes and how they're, sold cigarettes and things like this. And it's a fascinating book, and it's really quite a militant approach as well. And she's brilliant, Holly Whitaker. So that's an interesting one. I'm just looking at what else I've got on my list.
Oh, I've took it, yeah, from the same sort of standpoint. Glorious Rock Bottom by Bryony Gordon as
Oh, I've
well.
not read that one.
That's that's a great book. That's a great book.
A couple of others as well, I think, worth mentioning. There's a book that came out about a year ago by James Swanwick. I don't know if you're familiar with James Swanwick. He's a bit like the Australian Andy Ramage, and he did a book called he did a book called Clear, which is like a neuroscience approach to quitting drinking.
Right.
That I'll be honest, I was really looking forward to that actually, and I read it and I was like, yeah, it's okay. But it's like I say, it's much more of a sort of science based approach. That's worth having a look at. And Andy's book, of course, he's done a couple of books. He did oh
Let's do
gosh,
this.
Let's Do This, yeah. And so I think those are kind of like the core six or seven, main most influential quitlet, I think.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, there might be one or two more that I kind of read as I went along that are probably worth pointing out. But I mean, off the back of OTI, The Life-Changing Magic of Quitting Alcohol by Sharon Hartley is another good one. Um, One for the Road, David Wilson, another good one.
Mm,
There's many. Let's just be honest. Once you open up, and I think coming back to what you're just saying there, it's not it's not necessarily that one is necessarily better than the other. There are the three that come up all the time, but I think hearing you speak there will be that book for each person where they have that moment that often we refer to around 100 days when you have that huge moment of clarity. If that's the book that's impacting you at that time, that's probably the book you're going to take the biggest takeaway from, if that makes sense, because that's certainly how it was for me with The Unexpected Joy of Being Sober.
mm. Yeah, agreed. Absolutely agreed. And then I don't know about you, but I found once I kind of kicked the alcohol into touch, and I'd kind of consumed all these sort of 10 books on alcohol free lifestyle, then I was kind of looking around for, okay, what next? What am I going to do next? And I've got a list here of a few books that I kind of followed up on, and I think a large chunk of them kind of fit into, I guess, what I'd call mindset books, and more to do with kind of the neuroscience angle of it. We've spoken about Atomic Habits before by James
Mm,
Clear,
mm,
which I think has been read by about 10 billion people. I mean, most people have read that. It's an incredible book.
mm.
But I'd also bring into the mix as well The Power of Habit by Charles Duhigg, which came out before Atomic Habits and is broadly similar, but has a different take on a few things. James Clear's built on quite a lot of the principles that Charles Duhigg put out there first, but that's a really incredible book about understanding the neuroscience around habits. What did you think of Atomic Habits? I
I
know you've
loved
read it.
Atomic Habits. I've not read The Power of Habit. I've not, must admit. I need to go back and read that one. But Atomic Habits, yeah, huge for me. And it because it's something you can just like we always say that, stepping away from alcohol is a that keystone habit, isn't it? It's that
Yeah.
big domino,
Well,
as you
that
often call it. And that's when these kind of books suddenly come in. So actually Atomic Habits is something you can just really, really pull upon when you're taking a break to look at how our habits are formed and understand how our habits are formed, and also how to make forming new habits easier.
mm,
But that also then builds into all aspects of your life. So whether it's for me, it was my kind of training regime, or it was taking on new challenges and actually holding myself accountable, but also making that habit stacking and making it so much easier. It's just it filled so many or it had so many jobs for me as well, rather than just particularly quitting alcohol.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Yeah,
Uh,
that term keystone habit, that that's from The Power of Habit by Charles
yeah.
Duhigg. He kind of coined that. I just think with Atomic Habits, there's so many great quotes in it as well. And a couple of the ones that really stuck out with me is he talks about who you are now, the person you are now. You are the products of the habits. You're the product of the habits that you've already run. So whatever you're doing with your life right now, whatever habits you have, you will be the product of those habits in 5 years, 10 years, 15
Mm,
years, whatever you carry on
mm,
doing.
mm,
So if you're drinking regularly and it's you don't feel like it, and you feel like it's holding you back, that's going to continue to compound and compound and compound. However you see yourself, whatever you see yourself as in the future, you've got to engineer the habits now that make you that person. Because if the habits of what you're doing with your life now, if you're not exercising, you're not eating particularly well, you're drinking too much, you'll be the product of that in a few years'
mm,
time. There's
mm,
no escaping it.
mm,
Things
mm,
don't just change on their own. The other thing that stuck with me from Atomic Habits, I'm going to completely butcher this, but he talks about this idea that changing habits is a bit like bamboo. So bamboo spends something like 2 years building all of these networks of root structure underground, and you don't even know anything's going on. And then all of a sudden, one day, it just explodes out into the sky and just grows like crazy above the ground. But for the first 2 years, you can't see anything happening, and all of this root structure is being laid down, and then it just explodes into life. And that's what putting habits in place is like. And I love
I've
that
got this big
analogy.
grin on my face listening to you hear that, because we have a real bamboo problem in our garden, and I can completely relate to it. You think you get rid of one bit, and then 20 foot across the other side of the lawn, out pops another
Yeah.
bit. You're like, gee, yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah,
But if you looked under
absolutely.
the ground, you'd see this huge network
Yeah,
of what's going on. And that's what
yeah,
a bit like what it's like when you change your habits. You don't see a particularly big output at the beginning,
yeah.
but then all of a sudden
It comes to
it
action.
just comes to life. And there's definitely a lot of parallels there, I think, with removing alcohol. Uh, a couple of others I'd throw into the mix as well from the mindset point of view is Mindset by Dr. Carol Dweck,
Yeah,
which we both read as part of our
yeah.
coaching training.
Hmm.
That's really fascinating about how to develop a growth mindset. So
Yeah,
one where you're focusing on everything you're gaining as opposed to what you're losing, and clearly
yeah.
there's huge parallels with alcohol. That's a great book.
I
Um,
think Chimp Paradox as well,
yeah,
Professor Stephen Peters,
yeah,
which, really helps you understand, the two parts of your brain and how they communicate, and specifically, really, really helps around those kind of cravings and those early cravings and understanding what's going on. Because once he explains that really clearly, of having your caged chimp and your badly behaved chimp and your pet chimp in your brain. I found that really a really clear way of helping you kind of understand what's going on there. So that's definitely worth a mention as well.
hmm um, one I read quite recently, which has just done extremely well, is The Dose Effect by TJ Power.
Hmm.
He's a really fascinating guy. He's a neuroscientist. He's only about 30, I think. He's quite a young guy. And in the dose effect, so dose is short for dopamine, oxytocin, serotonin, and endorphins, which are the four main brain chemicals. And he talks about how activities that we can do, habits that we can build up in our lives that kind of optimize those brain chemicals. Because ultimately, how you feel when you break it down, happiness is those chemicals.
Mm.
When we feel happy, that those chemicals are flooding our system, whether it's to do with feeling motivated with dopamine or connection with oxytocin, and you know, serotonin is obviously about happiness, and endorphins, that kind of feeling you get from exercise. And
Hmm.
so it's all about how we can maximize the release of these chemicals in our brain through things that we do. And he talks a lot about mobile phones and stuff like that, and quick dopamine, which obviously we spoke about with Catherine Gray last week. And it's brilliantly delivered because, like I say, he's quite a young guy and he speaks to like a younger audience. He it's not like you're being told some. It's not coming from like from a science lecturer. It's coming from like some guy you might meet at a party, and
Right.
it's so digestible, and it's incredibly actionable as well. So I recommend that to anyone.
I'm going to check that one out.
Yeah, Dose Effect, excellent, really really good. What else? Two more I wanted to mention as well. One I've mentioned it millions of times in this pod is The Second Mountain by David
Yeah,
Brooks,
yeah.
and that's all about how you're when you get to midlife, you're kind of getting to the top of your first mountain, and that could be about career, it could be about bringing up a family, but ultimately you're not going to keep carrying on scaling that same mountain until the day you die. So most people get to, you can call it a midlife crisis, or actually I think a midlife chrysalis comes from that book. That's where
Oh, you're joking.
yeah,
I
yeah,
thought that
that's
was yours.
no, that's where I ripped it off from. So it's this idea that you go through a midlife chrysalis, like a middle essence is another way of looking at it, like a adolescence, but a middle essence. You go through a change. It's not just women that go through change, it's men as well. And you start thinking, okay, what do I want to do for the next 30 or 40 years? And alcohol is tied into that because maybe you're feeling a bit run down, a bit tired of, I'm sick and tired of feeling sick and tired. And a lot of people, it's very, very common, people in their 40s start questioning whether alcohol is working for them anymore. And this book talks to that a lot. It's all about, okay, what am I going to do next? What do I want to do the second half of my life? So, and that really inspired me to start thinking about all of that. And that led me to be doing this with you right now.
Yeah, I think that really stands out as well for, that we talked a few weeks ago about that kind of identity when you've had a month or two away. And actually, Second Mountain is so present in that because you just have this, alcohol's been part of my life for such a long time and now it's not. What am I going to do?
Mm,
So I think certainly a lot of the things that we've been doing over the last year or couple of years, if we go back to training and also some of the things I've taken on myself in terms of my own personal challenges and um, training for events, etc. It's all really, really relates to that and comes back to, that what the hell am I going to do now?
mm.
Because all I've been doing for the last 35 years is going to the pub.
Yeah, yeah. I
Yeah.
was quite late to that book, actually. It was actually Andy
Yeah.
Ramage
It
that
was. It
recommended
came up
that
and
book.
yeah,
So I
absolutely.
only read that maybe a year or two ago,
Yeah.
but it's profound. And another one that's quite similar to that, that's quite well known, is 4,000 Weeks by Oliver
Yeah.
Berkman.
Yeah.
4,000 weeks refers to the average number of weeks a person gets on this earth. And when you look at it in those terms, you think, fuck, 4,000 weeks, that's not actually that long,
No.
particularly when you've already spent half of them.
Yeah.
So you start, again, sort of referring back to Catherine Gray last week, she was speaking about only allocating herself 1 hour of TV a day because she played that forward to what that could be in 30 years' time. And you're a bit like, do I want to spend 4 years of my life watching TV? And it kind of puts it in a different perspective. And 4,000 Weeks talks about you can't do everything that you want to do. And it's prioritizing your time towards, there's certain things you're just going to have to go, you know what? I just not going to be able to do that. And just being able to accept that you can't do everything
Mm.
and finding ways to enjoy the time that you have. And it's again, it's a very philosophical book, but
Well,
good one.
that one particularly can tie into when you're talking about taking a break from alcohol, and coming back to that, not giving up, not, and we come back to this over and over and over again. If you take a 12-week break from alcohol and treat that as an experiment, taking into account that 12 weeks is 0.3% of that 4,000
Mm,
to
nothing.
actually potentially define what the rest of your life will look like.
Yeah. Course
And
correct.
of course, exactly. And if you get to the end of that 12 weeks and you have treated it as an experiment and you get to the end of it and think, yeah, you know what, this isn't for me, which I'm going to be honest, I've yet to see. But if you do, great, because 4,000, when you put it down like that, 4,000 weeks is not very long. It's
No,
not very long at all. And it's
it's
certainly not
not.
very long when you're 53 either,
No,
because you
no.
wonder how many of those weeks you've
I mean,
actually
obviously,
taken
I've
that.
got a lot longer than you have, but
Well, a
I
little
know
bit
what you mean.
longer, a
Someone who's
little bit
a lot
longer.
older that like you are, but
Uh,
yeah.
so, yeah, but yeah, that was also, yeah, a great book, a great book. Any
It,
others?
well, just as a side topic on that, it's
Go on.
you're dead right. We're not very good at humans as kind of seeing our future selves. So we might see, oh yeah, in 5 years or whatever, but we don't really think about us in 20 years. And this kind of ties into what we're saying about atomic habits in terms of about you becoming what you are in
Mm,
your habits. It's part of the reason why most people are quite bad at sort of saving for a pension and stuff, because you just can't wrap your head around you in 30 years. It's just
yeah.
like, I just don't get it. So I read this, I don't know where I read it, but somebody told me that what you need to do in order to make this to be able to consider your future self more easily is have a picture of yourself from AI when you're 80. get a picture of you now and ask AI to turn it into you at 80 and keep it on your phone or keep it on your desktop, but it makes it more visual that you can kind of put yourself in the position of, I want to put money aside, or I want to look after, I want to look after that old guy because that's me. And it's, I've got a picture of me, and it's scary at 80.
What
I look
is
all
there
right
any
actually,
chance
but
it might just come back and come up with a coffin? Because that might terrify me. Oh, you're not going to make it to 80. Because AI is getting quite good now, right?
yeah, yeah,
I don't know if it can predict the future yet, but
it does make it a bit more real.
yeah, I can
But
imagine. Yeah, I'm not sure. I'll give
so
that a go.
try that. Try that. I mean,
Yeah.
you look like Santa Claus, I'm sure. But yeah, I mean, I'm yeah, completely white hair I've got. The thing is, like, you know, the picture of me that I've got. It's actually on my Instagram where I've got the Lucky Saint T-shirt on.
Yeah, yeah.
I did that one. So it's this 80-year-old guy in a Lucky Saint T-shirt. Oh, it's hilarious. Um,
Oh,
so
great.
those are pretty much the mindset-y type books. Is there any others that jump out to you that you've read since you went alcohol free that have had a profound effect on you?
I think in terms of mind around mindset, no, I think we've probably covered pretty much all of them. There's a couple of books out there.
Oh, sorry, just one
Go
thing
on.
before we go back. There's one we have missed, which is on my list I did mention. Dopamine Nation. That's the other
Yes.
one.
Yes.
Very similar to the dose effect in a lot of regards. But once you wrap your head around what dopamine is and how it works, and it's not all about pleasure, it's about motivation.
Hmm.
Um, again, completely changes your outlook on it.
Yeah, it's the wanting chemical, isn't it? I always for years thought it was the pleasure chemical,
Mm,
dopamine, but it's that wanting chemical. So yeah, understanding that and that really 100%, 100% was a great book. For me, obviously when I stepped away, I then started to take on challenges myself that were particularly, um, you know, poignant to me in terms of taking on my ultras and what have you. So, a great book for me was There Is No Wall by Ali Bailey. Now, I appreciate most of our listeners may not know who Ali Bailey is. If you're a runner, you most certainly will. So, Ali Bailey is a British ultra runner, female ultra runner who battled for years with her own addictions, um, and her own mental health issues. And the book is There Is No Wall, or with the subtitle of Running Won't Save You. So it kind of tackles the challenge of actually she was using running to run away from herself for many, many years. And it's only when she actually found the core of what was going on that she then catapulted forward into what she does now. And she's now a coach and mental health advocate, and still has her own challenges, but takes on these absolutely monumental challenges, such as the winter spine race. Those of you that don't know, the winter spine race is a 268-mile long race in January up the full length of the Pennine Way over a week, and arguably one of the most challenging races on earth. But she doesn't come at it from a point of view of, hey, look at me. It's it's about her own challenge to do that, and actually the ability that we can all achieve huge things if we step away, and it's not about the glory of, look at what I've done. It's a fascinating book. It's an amazing book to see just how much she turned her life around. And I went along to one of her talks and met her very briefly. And yeah, just an amazing book. If you're into running, if you're into your running, if you're into challenging yourself in any way, definitely recommend it. I appreciate that's not all of our audience, but I would definitely recommend that for a read.
brilliant.
Yeah,
Yeah, I'll check that out. I've not read
yeah.
that one.
But yeah, but if you're going to listen on an audiobook, she doesn't mix her words, so make sure the kids aren't in the back. It's
Mm.
quite
Bit
strong.
fruity, is it?
It's a bit fruity. Yeah, absolutely.
I should say actually, with regards to audiobooks, all of these books I've listed, I listened to all of them. I didn't read any of them. I read Alan Carr, but actually no, I didn't. I
Yeah.
listened to Alan Carr. But what I've subsequently done is any book that I listen to that I like that has an impact on me, I go and buy it. So I've got all the books. So I've
Mm.
kept, but I don't really actually read any of them. I
I'm the same.
listen to
I'm
all
the
of them. It's
same.
great when you're out with the dog or whatever and stuff like that. It's
Yeah.
um,
Yeah, and I think with Quitlit particularly, I think often it can be so much more impactful to listen to it,
mm,
because sometimes you are out there, you are in the, particularly like if you say you're walking the dog, it's an early morning, you've got a beautiful morning and you're listening to something that really impacts you. it certainly for me it was the best way to do it. But you're right.
Mm.
If I love them, I'll buy them and I'll have them on my shelf. But they become ornaments because I always come
Yeah,
back and listen to them anyway.
pretty
Yeah,
much. And
absolutely.
a couple of others that kind of came downstream for me. Well, actually, so there's two in particular I want to talk about. One is called Why We Sleep by Matthew Walker,
Hmm.
and this actually came in between the Alan Carr book and the three Quitlit books. So when I was still drinking, I read this, and this again is a bit like Atomic Habits in the fact that it's been quite widely read. It's quite highly acclaimed, but it probably came out about 10 years ago, and it talked about sleep for the first time as being literally the most important thing for health. Because obviously we were coming out of like the 80s and 90s and 2000s where the sleep wasn't prioritized. It was just, well, I'll sleep when I'm dead, and but it put sleep at no, you should be building your life around sleep being the most important thing. And some of the stuff that Dr. Matthew Walker talks about is mind blowing.
Mm,
Stuff like, just one night of poor sleep is the equivalent of drink driving. It's stuff like that,
mm,
And when I read this book, I was a bit like, wow, I need to sort my sleep out. This is a mess. And that was one of the things that, again, kind of became a real big motivator for me to wanting to quit alcohol, because he talks a lot about alcohol in the book and about, this idea of like, oh, yeah, alcohol helps you go to sleep and all that. It's absolute bollocks. It's trashing
mm.
your sleep. It's absolutely trashing your sleep. And that was another mark on the bedpost of, okay, there's no way around this. If you want to improve your sleep, alcohol's got to go. So that was a really big book for me in terms of understanding what was going on with sleep. And it, for me, I don't put anything more important than sleep.
Yeah.
It's very rare that I don't go to bed at the same time or get up at the same time, all that kind of stuff. But so that's a good one. The other one that had a really profound effect on me was Ultra Processed People by Dr.
Mm.
Van Tulleken. And again, this is another book that's been quite well heralded. It's all about ultra processed food. And once you start to understand nutrition and the landscape around food, and what we're being sold, there's a lot of parallels between the alcohol industry, the tobacco industry, and the food industry. And we're basically being sold a load of stuff that's killing us. It's as simple as that. And when you start to see what was on the supermarket shelves in the same way that you see alcohol and you see cigarettes, you're a lot more thoughtful about what you're consuming and what you're giving to your kids. So that's Ultra Processed People is another book that is a real wake up call about food.
Awesome.
Mm.
Well, I think we've pretty much filled most people's bookshelves.
That's literally my bookshelf plus a
No,
few more thrown in. So
exactly, exactly. I mean, I think it's important to say there are. I mean, the list is endless. The list is absolutely endless. I've just started. I've just started reading What You Thirsty For by Anna Donaghy as well,
yes.
and yeah, which is a great book. And
Why are you reading that, Steve?
well, you never know.
Just in case you might come
In
on in
case
the
you might
future
come on
week.
the podcast in the
Who
future.
knows?
But yeah, it's great. I've literally just started it this morning actually, and yeah, again, the opening chapter really, really powerful. Really, she looks at imagining viewing alcohol in a museum, but two separate rooms, and one of them is all the jollities and the fun and everything else, and then the other one is the opposite, and it's very clever. But I know, I'm very interested to continue reading that because I've listened to her podcast for some time now,
Me too.
which is called The Big Drink Rethink. It's a great podcast, and other podcasts are available. But I've been listening to that for some time. It's brilliant, and what I love about Anna is that she comes from a marketing background, but it's exactly that. It's the big drink rethink. It's rethinking the way we think about our drink. It's not preachy, and it's a great book. I'm looking forward to very much to finishing that one.
Me too. We shall
Cool.
compare notes on that one in future
Exactly.
weeks.
Exactly. Brilliant. Well, I
Cool.
think
Well,
there's a lot to be getting on with there.
yeah, 100%. I mean, it's yeah. If anyone's got any other books that do you think we've missed, then ping us email at info@thealcoholfreerevolution.co.uk and
We
we'll
might start a
shout.
book club.
Yeah, we'll start a little book club, or come to the alcohol free revolution community
Yeah,
and tell us what we've missed or
exactly.
what's worked for
Exactly.
you. There are a ton of other
Brilliant.
stuff out there as well. So
Awesome.
good stuff. If you want to
Awesome.
leave us a
Well,
5-star review, by the way, we never say this. I mean, any other podcast you go on in the world, they're literally saying this minute one, which is probably why we've only got 6 listeners. But but yeah, if you want to
it's
leave us a
not
5,
strictly true.
that's not
We
strictly
have
true.
been making that joke since day one. We've got 7 now.
Right, okay. Joe doesn't count.
No, well, exactly. So listen, yeah, but you're right. Please do if you enjoy the pod, it means a lot if you can leave
Helps
us a
us out.
review. Helps us out. Just
Helps
helps
us
us get
out.
further up the listening, helps more people listen to what we want to talk about. And yeah, we do this because we love it and we just want to spread the information to as many people as possible.
Hooray.
Hooray. Absolutely. Cool.
All right.
Let's catch up next week.
Yeah, good to see you, mate. Have a great
Have
week.
a great week.
Speak to
Take
you later.
care.
Bye.
Bye.